When I play up game and then talk, I'm trying, Jennifer.
Rip City, what is going on? We're back for another episode of the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast, and we got a special one here. We've got a couple extra people that are, one's going to be a familiar voice, a couple new ones, so we're excited to talk with everybody. But first and foremost, we got Fawad here. Fawad, how are you doing tonight?
I have had a long day, so I'm just here to listen to you guys talk and just enjoy the vibes.
Yeah, Fawad was vacationing in New York City, so how was New York?
It was fine, but then I went back to work today and I came back really late, so have not had a lot of time to rest.
Well, then you just get to sit back and listen, and we can talk some Blazer basketball, and you can enjoy it.
Sounds good.
Okay, so first person here. This is going to be a familiar person. I believe he was on the last time we did a listener episode. We got James here. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's been a long day, long couple days. I feel like I've been at work for 5 days straight, and it's only been 2 because of the holidays. So it's been a weird week. But how have you been?
I'm doing good on the East Coast. It's getting cold now. I think you guys got a lot of snow out in Oregon, but staying up late. Obviously, like I said, I'm on the East Coast, so I'm up late watching our guys every game. And it feels like it's been a long time since our last game, so I'm ready to tune in. What is it tomorrow? We got another game, so I'm ready for that.
Yeah, it's a weird little stretch of the schedule we have right now. We've also got RipCityBoi. How you doing, Rose?
I'm good. How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Thanks for joining. This is your first time here, so we appreciate you joining. Then
Appreciate y'all having.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, Rose, let me ask you a quick question real quick. Do you do Twitter Spaces? I feel like I've seen you in a lot of Twitter Spaces.
I do a lot of Twitter Spaces.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought so. Okay, so for those of you that have heard in our past podcasts when we talk about Twitter Spaces, I was pretty sure Rose was in a lot of them. So he is there a lot talking basketball, and Twitter Spaces is a lot of fun. So if you guys have Twitter and you see a Twitter Spaces going, make sure to hop in and talk. We also got Taylor. Taylor, this is your first time here as well, so we appreciate you joining us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
No, we appreciate you joining. It's always good to have some new people come in and talk and give us opinions and hear your thought processes. So we're excited.
Thanks, man.
So we're gonna go into it. I'm not sure how long this is gonna be. We're gonna try to keep it, semi short. We don't want to be a 2-hour podcast. So, but let's just start right off. James, your first. What's your feelings on this season? How's it been for you? What's your expectations? The floor is yours.
Man, I think as fans, you want to see as many wins as possible. So I don't care how low of an expectation these quote unquote experts have, or even as Blazer fans, the type of expectations we have, we still want to win every game. And I think we've let several games slip away. The one game that just stands out in my memory is against the Clippers at home. But, I'm going to be disappointed if we're not winning or have a higher in the standings. But at the same time, we're not that far behind as far as the standings go. I mean, we definitely have a chance to make a push and get in a better spot. But I think, a lot of the conversations that we need to have is, what kind of changes we should possibly make, unless there are people out there that think we're going to be fine. I'm not one of those people. But overall, right now we're 8th and we're 4.5 games back from 1st. So that's still positive, but overall, I'm not ecstatic or anything. We've cooled off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're a very up and down team. So I think it's a fair viewpoint to be, somewhat kind of excited, but also somewhat disappointed at the same time, because you can't get a real gauge on what this team is, if it's actually a good team or if it's needing work, which I too agree it probably is leaning towards more it needs work. But yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, I know we got super excited in the beginning. I know super
Right.
early on we're thinking, oh my God, championships, right? Like we're looking that good. But again, reality hits, and that's not where we're at. We're not a contender right now at all. So
No, I agree there. What about you, Rose City Boy? How's your opinion on this season so far?
Well, this season is really like a disappointment for me because I just feel like even we have a new group, there's like piggyback what the dude said before me. Too many wins that we could have won, and I just feel like that would help us in the long run as far as like our standings. Because in my personal opinion, I don't think we want to face a top seeded team in the first round. So that's what I'm thinking about playoffs. So I want us to have a top 3, top 4 seed, in my opinion, to not face one of the better teams in the conference. So those type of losses kind of hurt in the long run.
Yeah, I've always been of the opinion that the games that you're supposed to win, you have to win. You cannot lose. You cannot give games away. Especially in the West, especially with how tight it's been. Like James just said a little bit ago, there's not much separation from 1 to 10. So really, any game you're giving away is really costing you right now. So yeah, I'm with you on that as well. Um, it's hard to get excited because you expect the downfall. Seems like. Uh, what about you, Taylor? How's your view on the season?
Man, this team is just a heartbreaker, right? Because I think there's only been 1 or 2 games that we've truly been out of. So throughout this entire season, every loss just feels like it hurts that much more because it feels like, man, we were right there to get it. Especially those 2 in OKC and then the buzzer beater again with Denver. Like those just eat your heart out every time.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and especially against Denver, who we've kind of started a little rivalry with them. So losing any game to them sucks,
Oh,
especially
it's
on the
miserable.
game winner.
Oh, it's miserable. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a experimental year this year. One of those kind of evaluation years. I don't think I'm quite as like down as other people might be in terms
Hmm.
of like, oh, this is so disappointing. I mean, we're 2 games above 500 at the moment. Like that's pretty good by Christmas time, which will like if you like ask people earlier in the season, like maybe some experts or whatever, they would say like we'd be lucky to be within 5 games of being 500 by Christmas time, based on our schedule, the fact that
Hmm.
we've already played almost half of our road games already. I think one more, which will be on Friday in Golden State, and then half of our road games will already be done before the new year.
Well, no, I mean you said it perfectly, and it's something I have to keep reminding myself as well. Is that this wasn't necessarily the year that we're trying to win it all. It was more of a get the foundation. So that's something I keep telling myself is like, I know I want us to win and I know we all want us to win, but there is truth behind the fact that they came out and said that this isn't the year that they're necessarily trying to win a championship. So and like you said, the schedule's been tough, a lot of road games. The schedule gets easier, but like we just said, we can't give away games we're supposed to win.
Absolutely. Those 2 in OKC just were
Yes.
terrible, especially for Dame, you know?
Yes. Yes. So let's get to the hot button issue. James, I know on Facebook is where I've met you, and I know on Facebook there's a lot of heat going on right now with this opinion that I threw out in a podcast a couple weeks ago, and it's kind of picking up more traction, and I'm starting to see it a lot more. So, what is I mean, I know what your opinion is, but let the world know what your opinion on. Um, is it a good idea? Should we be looking to trade Simons? Should we be looking to keep him? What's your opinion on that whole entire situation?
yeah, let's talk about it. I've been very vocal about it. I think I was a big Ant supporter. Especially seeing how he evolved last year. He's a volume scorer. He's a fun player. He can score. So I'm not hating on the guy. He's fun. I understand why Trailblazers fans like him so much. Here's the thing. Let's keep it real. He's another CJ. Okay, he can't defend. He's with Dame, and I understand some people want Dame traded. I don't know why, which we can talk about if need be. But Taylor, you said the words heartbreak, and I've been watching the Trailblazers since '91, just year after year, hardcore, diehard fan, and it's been heartbreak since then for me. Every year, right? So, for this year, I truly think that we can win one with Dame. I really do. And he's shown the loyalty. We just need to make a move or two. And you have to ship out a guy like Ant to bring in talent. No one's going to sit around giving us superstars for, Watford and Greg Brown. Like we have to give something of value. But what worries me now is because Ant doesn't necessarily thrive on the defensive end, I don't know who we could truly get. So just so everyone's aware, I'm not saying let's trade him for a PJ Tucker. We need to get some value, obviously. So if there's no trade on the table that makes sense, then yeah, we got to stick with him. But to help Dame get a team to win, and it's disappointing to hear, man. You just said, this year we're not trying to win at all. If that's what, the organization said, that's kind of weak. But if we make the right moves now, we have to start building the chemistry right now to either make a push, because I think the West is open, right? I mean, there's some great teams like the Nuggets, Suns seem to be falling apart right now, but I really think we can compete as long as we make the right moves. And Ant's part of that. We got to move on. That's my strong opinion.
No, I mean, believe me, I don't want to say like I am just against Ant, because I'm not. I think, like you said, he's a very fun player to watch. He's got a bright future, and like you said, if it's kind of like the CJ situation trade wise, where we can't just trade CJ to trade CJ because we were all tired of the issues that he was, creating defensively and offensively. You have to get the correct value for a player of that level, and like you said, we can't just trade Ant because we don't think defensively he can help us, and just let's trade him for the first available player that gets offered to us. I mean, Ant is a good player. I know there's going to be a lot of players that can do what he does, but he's a very efficient shooter. He's a pretty reliable scorer. I know he can be inconsistent at times, but that also comes with developing more and being more of the focus on offense. Last year he didn't really. I don't feel like we saw as much inconsistency scoring wise as we have this year. Like there was games where it was worse than normal, but he was more consistent last year because he was the focal point, and now this year he's sharing with Dame and he's sharing with Grant. So no, I totally agree. And before I go any farther, I see Zander has joined us. Zander, how you doing tonight?
My man, what's going on?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Watching the Ducks get destroyed. So
I know. I turned
yeah, I'm
it
gonna
off. I was embarrassed.
turn this shit off.
No, I appreciate you, Zander. We're gonna get to you here in just a second, but I just wanted to shout you out. So
Yep.
hang tight. So yeah, James, I'm with you. I think if the ultimate goal is to win with Dame, and it should be, because I think not only does he deserve it, but I think that is our best chance. I agree with you. I think Simons needs to be moved. I think we just have to find the right piece. Maybe it's not this year. Maybe it's in the off season. Maybe it's right at the trade deadline. I don't know.
I mean, one thing I want to add, this is going to piss off some people, but, personally, I'm okay moving Sharp with Ant. And I understand Sharp looks special. He has a lot of potential. Some people have brought up, well, we traded a superstar before in Jermaine O'Neal. Guys, that was 20 plus years ago. Jermaine O'Neal never won a championship. I know he blossomed and turned into an all-star. I get it. But they never won it all, right? And he was playing behind Rasheed Wallace for, if we kept him, he would have had to be on the bench, coming off the bench for another 3, 4, 5 years or however long it was. So I'm open to it, especially if we can bring in a legit player that's within Dame's timeline.
Yep.
Why not go for that, right?
Yep. There should be no player that is off limits besides Dame if we truly are trying to win now. And that's my opinion. I know some people, disagree. I wouldn't necessarily. Let me put it this way. Like you just said, if it's for the right player, 100% I have no issue throwing. If it's for Siakam, I am fine with Ant and Sharp. I have no issue with that.
He's from Canada. I don't know if he's from Toronto, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're going to ask for him. We got to roll the dice.
Yeah, I think Sharp could be a very good player. He's definitely shown, spurts of it, but we can't just hold out on hope that this player is going to end up being somebody and miss out on a chance now. We're going to get back to it, James, I promise. But we're
Canada.
Go for it.
Canada was mentioned, so I got to chime in. Sharp is not from Toronto. He's from London, Ontario, which is about 2.5 hours away. That's my contribution for the episode.
RipCityBoi, what is your opinion on trading Simons?
I'm all for trading him if we get a valuable piece in return. And what I mean by that, I'm guessing somebody a shooting guard or a small forward that could pretty much be a consistent 15 point per game and play solid defense. That's pretty much what we need. Like, if you can give me that, I'm all for it.
So let me ask you this then: is like a player like, I know this has been something I suggested, and I know some people are for it, some people aren't. So if it was like OG Anunoby, would you be okay with that?
Excuse my language, but fuck yes, nigga.
Thank you.
Like, yes.
I think he's one of those players that, like, people look at Ant and see how good he is offensively, and they look at OG and they see that he's not averaging 24 points and he's not shooting almost 40% from three. OG is definitely not a slouch offensively. He is a very good offensive player. He may not be as efficient as Ant is offensively, or provide the deep threes and the catch and shoot constantly, but I will take his defense plus his above average offense any day. So I am all for OG. Is there any other player that you would love to see that we haven't talked about?
Can't think of one right now. OG is a good one, but like any other player, I'm just also being realistic. Any other player that I could think about, like, that team was not going to trade for Anthony and Shaden.
Yeah. And that's one of the problems is we have to be realistic. We can't just say like Simons for Durant. And also situations change. The beginning of the season there was talks about Brooklyn may blow things up, and now you look and Brooklyn's won 10 in a row, and they probably aren't going to blow things up. So I mean, lots can change. Simons can't be traded until I think the 15th of January, so there's still time for that. Toronto does look like they're kind of teetering on should they blow things up or should they keep trying. So it's interesting. There's lots that can happen still. What about you, Taylor? Oh, go for it.
No, but I also was thinking, like, if Toronto do a fire sale, like, they're going to get a better deal for him. So I just honestly think their team is going to give him a better deal, especially if they blow it up and they trying to build around Scotty Barnes. That's what I was told.
Well, and Fawad, I know you're from Toronto, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Scotty Barnes has not had a very good year.
Yeah, he's definitely been underwhelming. He's put together a couple good games in a row recently, but I think, most people don't see him as the centerpiece, but, a lot of people still think of him as maybe like him, OG, and another pick that could be like potentially a core. So it's not like, fans have given up on him, but he's not like the face of the franchise type of guy, in my opinion. At least the vibe I've gotten from other people.
Yeah, and one more thing to add to that. Simons is definitely a player that could be your number 2 option. If your team is better defensively, you can't have your starting point guard and shooting guard be just terrible defensively and then expect that to work. I mean, we've seen it with CJ. So Toronto definitely could use him. Do they want him? I would assume they probably would, but it remains to be seen what can happen. Okay, what about you, Taylor? How's your opinion? What's your opinion on Simons being traded?
I'm going to start it with the disgusting fact. So I looked it up today. The median age of people in Portland is 37 and a half years old, which means more than half of the people in Portland have not experienced Portland winning a championship. That is terrible.
Yep.
And in addition to that, I'm going to preach patience because Simons is probably our best tradable asset, right? And he's making up roughly $25 million a year, right? But if you just look at OG and Anunoby, he's making like 15 to 17, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact number, but it's not a lot. He's a very team-friendly deal in terms of his like money out. So in order for that deal to even like make sense at all, they would have to throw in another like 10 million worth of like salary just to make sense, right? There's no way Toronto's doing that, first of all. So, and second of all, Portland shouldn't be trading away their best asset for OG and Anunoby. I love it, OG. I think he's an incredible player, probably gonna be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. He is no slouch on any facet of the game. But if we're looking at Portland winning a championship, in order to win, we have to build this team like smartly, right? That means using all the tools that we possibly have, right? Josh Hart right now is probably our best tradable asset for this offseason or for this trade deadline. And then trading Simons, let him build his value over the next season. Let him show that he can be a starter in this league, averaging over 20 points a game, right? Any team is going to want that. He's 23 years old. Let him have a whole season under his belt. And then from the time next season starts, all the way to the trade deadline. Also, we are probably going to be a playoff team this season, which means that our pick that is owed to Chicago is going to go to Chicago, which means that next season we'll have all of our tools ready for us. So then, in order for us to push in all of our chips in order to get the right player, rather than I love Siakam, but I do think that Grant is more of a natural 4 than he is 3. I think he's capable of playing the 3, but I don't think he's a natural fit there. So then it gets a little clunky, right? So I think that you got to push in all your tools and use all the right moves in order to get the right person at the right time. So pushing in Simons to try and get somebody right now because we're feeling really good and feel like the West is open this year might not be the best move when a much better move might be available next season when we have more tools at our disposal to actually push everything in to get an even better player than Siakam.
I mean, I can't fault you for thinking that way. I part of me does agree with you. I mean, I wouldn't like I said in a couple episodes ago, I wouldn't hate if we never traded Simons because he is a good player and I do see in the future he could be a very good player. I just think moving on from him is the right move. And necessarily when I said that I didn't mean like it had to be this year, this week, tomorrow, yesterday. Like if like you said, if he continues to play and shows that he's, a very valuable starter and then in the offseason or next year we make a trade, I'm okay with that. I don't feel like this is our only year to capitalize on him. I'm afraid we're gonna go the CJ route where we just don't.
And that's totally valid. Like anyone in Portland would be afraid of that. We just spent almost a decade with CJ right there. And I love CJ. He's a bucket by himself. He's also a play ender, right? We all know that. We don't have to go through that.
Yep.
But like in order to maximize the value in terms of like the tools that we have, trading Simons at least this deadline or in the off season before like his value really peaks and allowing that Chicago pick to really just go to Chicago and get that restriction lifted away from us allows us to use more tools to get a better player.
And I agree. I do agree with you 100% on that. I think that Chicago pick, going to Chicago, for those of you that don't know, Chicago gets our pick if it's after 15. So, or 15 or above, I believe is how it is. So I agree. It's you very well put it out. I do agree. I think we get a much better package if we have those picks available to trade. So, I mean, I'm with you on that one. Zander, what's your opinion? I know I've seen you on Facebook as well a couple times. What's your opinion on trading Ant?
I think you got to do it this season, man. I mean, Dame's 32, and a lot of people probably disagree with me, but I'm tired of waiting, man. And I understand that, you got to trade for the right package, but I mean, game after game after game after game, I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, he just gets eaten up. I mean, their best player just always eats Ant up. I've seen so many games lost by him, and I'm sick of it, man, personally. And I get trying to be patient, waiting for the right package, but I think you gotta make a move with Toronto, like you're saying. I think they're going to be splitting the team apart, in my opinion. And I think there's a good chance, their asking price on OG is going to go down. Siakam. I would love to get Turner. I don't know how we do that really. I'm frankly, I'm kind of sick of Nurk too. He used to be my favorite player. I love watching him. I love having him on the team. He's just so soft mentally. You can see him. He's just mentally out of plays. If he makes a bad decision, he's out, mentally out of the game for the rest of the game. If there was a way to get Turner with him, an OG, I think that would be a one hell of a team, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't think there's time to wait. Personally, we've waited so long with Dame. He's 32. He's got 2-3 years left in his prime, in my opinion. We don't have time to wait.
yeah, and you're right. Simons is very, very. He gets beat on ball constantly. He can't keep anybody in front of him. He does a tiny bit better when he's down in the post, and he doesn't have to worry about space and having to cover a lot of ground when he's right down there. But it's still not good. So I mean, I get it. I get it.
And I want to see him develop too. And it's not that, man. I love watching him, dude. He's fun to watch, but I don't think we have the time. That's what it comes down to, is time for me.
And in my opinion, we won't see him get much better at defense than what we've already seen. I think he's going to be one of those players. He's undersized. He's smaller frame. He's just going to be one of those guys that's very gifted offensively, and just defensively, there's not much there. And some teams need that. Right now, we're not a team that needs that.
Yep, and I'm with Jam as well, and moving Shaden if you have to, man. I mean, we're a win now. You could trade Dame, build a team around Ant, but I just think we owe it to Dame, man. He deserves that chip more than anybody.
Yeah. And Taylor, I get where you're coming from as well, and it totally makes sense. So it's like we're in this weird predicament where it's like, what is the right thought process? What is the right move? So I mean, I totally get both sides.
Well, that's the thing, is like, I want Dame to win more than anything. I also know that realistically, to give him his best shot, it's probably going to be next year. And I my fantasy is that we trade Josh Hart and Keon for OG, get that set up this year, and then next year trade Simons for an superstar all-star talent to really solidify having Dame, whoever we trade for, OG, Grant, and then maybe Nurk, but Nurk is so just up and down. I would much rather just have someone who's just really good at rebounding and paint defense, substitute Nurk out just for that, just to have some sort of consistency, and then just let Grant, OG, whoever we trade for, and Dame just kind of work everyone, and then have Shaden, Peyton, and Winslow off the bench.
Yeah, and that's something we haven't even seen Peyton yet. I know the rumor is Friday he's supposed to make his debut. I mean, that remains to be seen until it happens. Until it happens, I don't believe it. So, there's a lot that Peyton can help us with. I definitely think defensively it's going to help us. His mentality and his communication is going to help defensively. Does it help Ant that much more? Probably not. But as a team, it's going to help. So, I mean, there's lots of factors to go into all this, and that's why we're not GMs. I know it's so easy to sit here and just say, dude, let's just do this, do it. But there's a lot of factors that go into it. So I want to wrap back around real quick. First off, James, if you have any response to Taylor's
I've got a lot.
process,
I've got a lot.
But
So
I also wanted your opinion on trading, people wanting to get rid of Nurk as well.
no, I gotcha. Yeah, I'll address all of this. So Taylor, no disrespect to you, man. Everyone's entitled to their opinions, and I can respect it. But here are some things here. Holding on to Ant and being patient will show the league that he can score. It's also going to show how much of a poor defender he is more and more. I'm scared his value could also get tainted, where we're just not getting offers. That's number one. Number two, Hart for Keon, or Hart and Keon for an OG. That's tough. I mean, that's just a scenario of, I think, us Blazer fans overvaluing some players for outside talent. Hart's great, right? Like he does it all, but I just don't see the league having super high value for him to give up somebody like an OG. Unfortunately, I would love that trade. But at the same time, I also want to keep Hart. I would love him as our starting two, and OG at the 3. We mentioned Siakam, and moving Grant to the 3 could be an issue. I don't know. I think that if Grant's playing the 3, which I believe he did either for the Nuggets or the Thunder in his career, I think the rest of the league is in trouble. If we have a team of like a Dame and a solid defender like an OG at the 2, for example, or excuse me, Hart at the 2, Grant at the 3, and then we've got Siakam at the 4. That's trouble for other teams as well. So that's one of those things where we'd have to wait and see. But Ant shoots the same amount of shots that Dame does. They both shoot 18 times a game. Ant got paid recently. It would be an even bigger problem if he's not putting up 22 points a game. He gets his shots. A lot of people look at Hart and think, man, why is he not being more aggressive and scoring more? He only shoots 7 times a game. Ant's shooting 11 more shots per game than Hart. So, and then the third highest shooter is Jeremy Grant at 15 a game. So, if you can plug in someone else at that spot, and if they're getting 18 shots up a game, they're going to score 20 plus points. So I'm not worried about losing scoring at all. He needs to be moved. And then I'll finish off with talking about Nurk. I loved Nurk, when it was all about Nurk fever. He's sensitive. He takes words to heart. He blocked me on Instagram because I was talking crap about Hazonia before. I mean, what a soft ass. He blocked me on Instagram. I thought, what the hell is this? But I still support him, right? Like I want him to do well. And I agree with Zander, but the thing is, look at last game. He had like 28 points, 5 threes. I mean, he can turn it on sometimes, and it's so great when he does that, but it's also so inconsistent. I don't know what to do with him. Do we move on? I think the answer is yes, but then when he puts up 28, you got to stop and think, crap, like maybe he's good, right? So there's a lot of inconsistency with the guy. And then I'll finish it by saying, Taylor, I know you said again, patience, but you're also frustrated, and you mentioned that it hurt losing back-to-back to OKC. That's why we need to make the change, right? That's why we need to be aggressive. And I don't know if you guys remember Bob Whitsitt, our GM in the 90s, who would just make some trades here and there. Sometimes it was crap, sometimes it was amazing. I miss that, and I hope Cronin can do something, because we can't wait forever, and we got to be on Dame's timeline.
Yeah, and I mean we've already seen Cronin make the move for Grant. I don't think that's something we probably would have seen with Olshey. So Cronin already has made more moves, taken more chances than I think Neil Olshey really has. I'm not as big of a I like Nurk. I'm not as big of a I don't blame a lot on him. He's our fourth option offensively. I will say this. I 110% am frustrated with how soft he is down low. All these little flip quick shots, and instead of just powering it down and just dunking on someone or going up strong, like it literally pisses me off every time he cannot finish a layup. So that does frustrate me. But I think defensively and offensively, what he provides is good enough, especially at the value of the contract we have for him. I don't know. I think it was Rose City said he'd like Turner. I don't know what it would take to get Turner. Indiana might not even want to give up Turner now. I don't know how much of a difference it makes. From they both do things good differently. Nurk is very inconsistent, so I get it. But he's all, like you just said, he has these games where he goes absolutely crazy, and I think it's all just about it's mental for Nurk, and if he's locked in, then he's locked in, and he's one of the better centers in the league. And I'm sure, I don't know off the top of my head what Turner's contract is, but Nurk's contract is fairly reasonable for us, and so that's going to be hard to move on, especially if we're going to try to get these other players like OG or Siakam or Jimmy Butler or one of these other players. Money is going to become an issue, and we have an owner that doesn't want to spend money right now. So Rose City, do you have any opinions on trading Nurk? I know you said Turner, so I'm going to guess you're probably okay with trading Nurk.
No, I didn't. I didn't say Turner. That wasn't me. I think that was someone.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
my bad.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. I'm okay with trading Nurk because I feel like, but the problem with trading Nurk is like, I hate to say it, but like, what other center is we gonna get that's better than him?
Yeah.
Every other center that I think that's better than him, or like either have potential to be better than him, I'm pretty sure the team won't trade him, or we can't trade him because we don't have the pieces to trade for him. So that's the problem I have with Nurk. I just feel like we're stuck with him, unfortunately.
No, and that's something I said in one of our podcasts. Like, if we're gonna trade Nurk to get an upgrade at center, what you're upgrading from the 16th best center to the 14th best center, but you're gonna have to give up something extra to get that 2-spot difference. Is it really worth giving up something extra? I mean, I guess it depends on what that extra is, but I agree with you. I don't think there's a player that realistically is going to be that much better, that's going to make that much of a difference, that it's worth trading Nurk for. Taylor, any response to James's rebuttal to you?
Absolutely. So James, I appreciate like your points, and I could feel the frustration as well. I also feel it. I haven't quite been a Blazers fan as long as you, mostly because I haven't been alive as long as you've been a fan, but you know, it is what it is. But what I can say is I get the fear about Simon's losing value because, like, the league will see he's not a good defender. He hasn't been a good defender for all 5 years that he's been there, but he's also learning under Dame, who, if you remember, the Blazers New Orleans series where AD just wrecked and like New Orleans just wrecked the Blazers and swept them, even though we were the third seed. Lillard went and just like learned how to shoot just crazy deep, right? Lillard is one of those people that just like learn something every single off season, and Simons is learning from Dame. So there is something that Simons is probably going to add to his game every single time he gets a chance, right? And so if you allow that 23-year-old learning from one of the greatest to ever do it, you allow that person to increase their value over time, right? So I think allowing Simons to kind of build his value as time goes on and trade him next trade deadline, where you can maximize that value, use those potential first round picks that are now freed up after making the playoffs this year. That allows us to use all of the tools at our disposal at a much more efficient and effective rate that allows us to absolutely maximize Lillard's window. The reason that Toronto might be interested in a Josh Hart, Keon, and maybe a couple second rounders if you really need to add something is that Toronto likely still sees themselves as competitive despite losing a lot recently, right? And the fact that Scotty Barnes, while he may not have been super amazing this year so far, he's still going to command a huge salary in the future. So they got to think about having the right amount of people with the right amount of salary and the right balance right there. OG and Scotty Barnes play similar positions, and you got Siakam there as well. So you got a log jam at the forward position. You trade OG, you allow Scotty Barnes to really kind of fulfill that spot and really kind of grow into his own. You add Josh Hart, who is a win now player for a team that sees themselves as competitive, while also allowing that expiring deal to say, given the option as like, you know what, we're going to try this year. If it doesn't work, then we'll reset in the offseason. We'll use that salary as a salary dump, right? Keon by himself is like a 20-year-old uber athletic, amazing like prospect, someone that could develop into like a really nice piece, right? So I think that there's more intrigue based on who Toronto is in terms of like a Josh Hart Keon trade than people might expect, right? And that's the thing about trades is you always have to think about what does the other person want and what do like what might they like see in something, right? And so I think it's really important to just kind of use all the tools that we possibly have while maximizing everything, right? So I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a GM or a trade expert, but like finding some sort of good trade for Josh Hart rather than potentially letting him walk or receive a better offers from somewhere else, right? Like I think it's so important that we maximize all those kind of tools that we have.
Yeah,
So
no, I honestly, now that you say that, I do think probably figuring out Josh Hart's situation is the most important situation or most important priority right now for this team. We can't let him walk for nothing.
because then you just that CJ McCollum trade just all of a sudden becomes worse.
And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Fawad, chime in. I believe Hart has a player option after this year, correct?
I don't remember, but
He
I thought
does.
he was
He
expiring.
does.
Oh, he does. My
Yeah,
bad.
he has a player option. I think it's around
So
13 now.
yeah, so I mean, he could choose to accept that and extend it, or he could say no, no thanks. But that's definitely something I'm sure Cronin is talking, in very good contact with him, because I agree with everybody. Josh Hart's a very important piece. He's a piece that you would want on a championship team. He plays winning basketball. He makes all the little plays that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet. So I'm very big on Josh Hart. But yeah, he is a big priority, and we need to figure out what the plan is with him. Xander, I have two things for you before we wrap up. Do you think trading Nurk is the right move? And then also, the last thing to wrap up, who, in your opinion, is the greatest Trailblazer of all time? I figured we would talk about that. So, oh, actually, hey, we have someone new. I didn't even notice. B Streaks, how are you doing?
Byron.
So, anyways, feel free to let us know who you think the all-time greatest Blazer is, and then as well, what's your opinion on trading Nurk?
I got to go with Dame, man. I'm 31. I'm a bit younger, so I didn't grow up watching, Clyde a whole lot or anything. So I mean, some recency bias, of course, but I got to go with Dame. I got to go with Dame all day. I think. With Nurk, I think that going back to, I think it just comes down to consistency, brother. He's just so inconsistent. It's one game he's in the he's in the game and mentally, and the next game he's not. It feels like, and if he can get consistency out of him, and I think keep him. But it's just, the problem is he's in the game now. Next game is out of the game. Next game is in the game. It's just a very, very inconsistent stat line. And I'm like the guy said, somebody said in chat, if he can average 15 and 10, I'm with that all day, bro. All day. He's just got to be consistent. But I would love to get Turner. I'm the guy who said I'd love to get Turner. I don't know what we're giving up for him, but I would love Turner on the team personally.
Yeah, no, and it's something I said in the podcast a couple weeks ago. If we're getting like 14 and 10 or 12 and 12 from Nurk, that's going to contribute to a lot of wins. It's just consistency. Can he do it consistently? Can he not? And
yeah.
There's
I'm
games where he has 30 points and 12 and 15 rebounds and 3 blocks. And I mean, the other night he had what? 25, 15, 5, 5. Like he was like in one of those 5x5 games again. So
yeah, and I'm with Jam as well. I'm gonna take Hart over Simon starting all day. Any game all day. I think he's just what we need. I mean, he reminds me of Wes Matthews, the motor of the team, yeah.
Well, Xander, I appreciate you joining. If we don't hear from you again, thank you so much for joining, and we're gonna definitely
Thanks for having me, brother.
Let's really quickly wind it down here. James, who in your opinion is the greatest Blazer of all time?
So I grew up watching Clyde. He was my favorite player. But for me, it's just, it's just emotional stuff as a kid. I mean, cheering him on for all those years, and then he went to Houston. We allowed that, right? We traded him to where he wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And then during the 50-year anniversary, he wore a Houston jacket, which a lot of people might not understand, but at the time that was a big deal for a lot of people, just representing the team that the players played for the most. But more importantly, after he wins the championship and all these years go by, I don't think he's been involved with the Blazer community at all. He's just more of just straight up a Houston Rocket. Even at Dame's ceremony, apparently there's word that, he called Dame. And someone posted on Facebook on one of my posts just saying, who are we to demand, Clyde to show up on a video screen for the fans? I get it, but it's just I just feel like he lost some class with our team. So my answer, sorry, long-winded answer, but it is Dame. I've never seen a leader like this before. I love his loyalty. He's done so much for the franchise, game winners after game winners. He's the greatest Trailblazer, and that's why, although I'm not a GM and I have no 0% in any decisions being made. That's why I'm so passionate about changes having to be made, because if we can get him some help, I really feel we can win it all. And if we do, then that's going to be the championship of all championships, given that he did not jump ship. He did it the hard way, and that'll cement it for sure. But I am leaning towards he is the greatest Trailblazer.
Yeah, and I'm with you. My mom is a very big Clyde Drexler fan. We actually were just talking about it today, funny enough. And I had mentioned Clyde has kind of lost a lot of people's respect in Portland. And um, and like you said, it's not on us to, pressure him into messaging Dame in public. If he contacted him privately, then good on him. He was a very good player. I have seen many, many highlights, watched many, many NBA Classic games of him. My mom, like I said, is a lover of Clyde Drexler. But in my opinion as well, I think Dame is the greatest Trailblazer. I think if you didn't even know who Dame was, like on the court, the stuff that he does off the court is just as important as the stuff he does on court. And so there's so much that he does both on and off the court that it just, to me, even though if we never win a championship with him, he passes Bill Walton, he passes Clyde Drexler. He is the greatest Blazer. What about you, Rose City Boy? What's your opinion? Who's the greatest?
Like, if I had to be honest, the greatest Blazer is the only person that accomplished the only thing that the MVP brought us the only championship we ever got. It's Bill Walton, in my opinion.
Fair.
So, like, it could be Bill, then we could have discussion about who's below him.
Yeah, and that's a totally fair point. I know a lot of people feel the same way. Yeah, I can't argue with it. If you said Clyde Drexler, I couldn't argue with it. I think they're all worthy players, and it's all of our opinions. So, was there anything else you wanted to add on to that?
No, that's it. That was it.
Okay. James, first off, I forgot to say this. Appreciate you joining once again. I think we're probably going to wrap it up here in just a second. So I just want to say thank you for joining. And same for you, Rose City. I know this is your first time, and I know I've talked to you in Twitter Spaces before. So I appreciate you joining and doing this for us. Last but not least, Taylor, what's your opinion? Who's the greatest Blazer of all time?
I mean, it's the man that bleeds Rip City, and that's Dame Lillard. Like he's just the greatest. Just because I agree with James, it's all the off court stuff. The fact that he just reps Portland, he just shows out for it. He's so loyal. Just one of the most humble people, even just portrayed in the media. Obviously, I haven't met him. I do have a moment where he was 6 feet in front of me, like in Portland, and I didn't ask for a picture. That's my biggest regret. But it, it's that guy, and I don't think it's close. And it's mostly because one, just a prolific scorer. Two, it's who he is as a person that makes him the greatest Trailblazer ever. Someone that you could be proud of when you think of the Blazers.
For sure. We are extremely lucky to have a player like him on our team. Loyal, a good person, a great basketball player, a great leader, not afraid to stick out, the bad years. And we're extremely lucky. Big shots, huge shots, deep shots, everywhere. I mean, we're extremely lucky. Okay. Everybody that is in here, I appreciate you all. Me and Fawad both appreciate you for joining. We look forward to talking more with you guys in Discord. If you guys aren't in Discord and you're listening, Discord's the place to be. If you want to join in on an episode, this is where we do the episode. So make sure you get in here and talk. It's a good time in Discord. Once again, guys, everybody that's in here, thank you so much for coming. Other than that, if you guys are listening and it's nighttime, have a good night. If it's morning time, have a good morning. But as always, Rip City, baby.
Yep. Thanks for having us, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks to My Life Pursuing for the music used on the intros and the outros of this podcast. You can check them out on all major streaming platforms at My Life Pursuing.
I'm trying, Jennifer. I'm trying.